10 years ago, Scarlett Monroe disappeared from the city that destroyed everything she loved. She left behind her childhood home, her family's memories.
You shouldn't have come back, Scarlett.
And the innocent version of
really
herself that believed justice always found its way. Now, at 29 years old, Scarlett returned with a completely different purpose. She was no longer the frightened girl who watched her family collapse under the pressure of a criminal world. Years of pain had transformed her into a woman who planned every move carefully, controlled every emotion, and carried one goal stronger than fear itself: revenge. Scarlett believed her family's suffering began with one name: Adrian Voss, the Mafia king who controlled the city's underground empire. Adrian was not the reckless criminal people expected. He was calculated, intelligent, and dangerously calm. In his early 30s, he had built a reputation as a man who could destroy enemies without raising his voice. Powerful organizations respected him, rivals avoided him, and the entire city believed Adrian Voss was untouchable. Scarlett had spent a decade studying him. She learned his businesses, his alliances, his weaknesses, and the secrets hidden behind his powerful image. She knew confronting him with anger would only lead to failure, so she created a different plan. She would enter his world. She would earn his trust. She would get close enough to discover the truth before making him pay for the years of pain she carried inside. But the most dangerous part of Scarlett's return was not her revenge plan. It was the fact that Adrian Voss was not the monster she expected to find. Behind the feared reputation was a man hiding his own secrets, a man whose past was connected to Scarlett's family in ways neither of them understood. When Scarlett finally crossed paths with Adrian, something about her immediately caught his attention. She did not lower her eyes, step away, or pretend to be intimidated like everyone else. For the first time in years, Adrian found someone who looked at him without fear. Scarlett believed she had returned to destroy the Mafia king. But she had no idea that Adrian Voss had already recognized the woman standing before him. Because she was not a stranger. She was the missing piece of the secret that had haunted him for 10 years. Scarlett Monroe entered Adrian Voss's world knowing every step could bring her closer to victory or expose her hidden mission. She did not rush. Revenge built on emotion failed, and she had spent 10 years learning patience. Every smile was controlled. Every conversation was carefully measured. Every moment beside Adrian was another opportunity to discover the truth behind her family's destruction. Adrian Voss ruled the city from behind a powerful empire built on luxury businesses, political influence, and absolute loyalty. His name opened doors that others could never approach. His security network was designed like a fortress, making him almost impossible to reach. People did not simply fear Adrian because of his reputation. They feared him because he was always 3 steps ahead. But Scarlett noticed something most people never saw. Behind the power was a man surrounded by people yet completely alone. Adrian did not behave like the criminals Scarlett had imagined. He was not reckless or driven by unnecessary violence. He preferred strategy over chaos and intelligence over intimidation. Years of betrayal had taught him that trust was a dangerous weakness, so he allowed only a few people close to him. Scarlett saw that weakness: loyalty, honesty, the 2 things Adrian valued more than anything. So she decided to become the one person he believed would never betray him. Slowly, Adrian opened the doors to his private world. She met Marcus Hale, his loyal security chief who watched her every move. She encountered Ethan Cross, Adrian's childhood friend and closest business partner, who immediately questioned why a mysterious woman had gained Adrian's attention. Even Adrian's family members believed Scarlett's sudden appearance carried a hidden purpose. They were right. Scarlett had a secret. But what she did not expect was discovering secrets of her own. The more time she spent with Adrian, the harder it became to match him with the villain she remembered. She saw him quietly helping employees who had nowhere else to turn. She saw kindness hidden beneath his cold reputation. She saw a man who had built an empire because he believed trust was something the world had already stolen from him. Then Scarlett found old records connected to her family's tragedy. The documents contained names she had never expected to see. The evidence suggested Adrian Voss might not have been responsible for destroying her family. Someone else had been controlling the events from the shadows. For the first time in 10 years, Scarlett questioned everything she believed. But revenge had already brought her too close. Adrian trusted her more than anyone. And inside his private archives, Scarlett discovered a hidden file revealing that her family's tragedy was connected to a secret Adrian Voss had been trying to uncover for years. For 10 years, Scarlett Monroe carried one belief that kept her moving forward. Adrian Voss destroyed her family. Every painful memory, every lost opportunity, and every night she spent rebuilding herself was connected to one name. Revenge had become more than a mission. It had become the reason she survived. But the hidden file inside Adrian's private archives changed everything. The documents revealed that the tragedy from 10 years ago was far more complicated than Scarlett ever imagined. The attack that destroyed her family was connected to multiple powerful organizations fighting for control behind the scenes. Adrian had controlled the city during that time, but there was one problem. There was no evidence proving he ordered the attack. Instead, the records suggested someone had used Adrian's reputation as a shield. Someone had created chaos, destroyed innocent lives, and allowed the world to blame the Mafia king. For the first time, Scarlett felt the foundation beneath her revenge begin to collapse. If Adrian was not responsible, then who had stolen her family's future? And why had someone worked so hard to make her hate him? Adrian Voss had been searching for those answers for years. He knew someone inside his own world had betrayed him. Someone powerful enough to manipulate criminal organizations, erase evidence, and turn enemies against each other. Scarlett and Adrian were chasing the same shadow without realizing it. She searched for the truth behind her family's destruction. He searched for the person threatening his empire. Their paths were moving toward the same enemy. As Scarlett spent more time with Adrian, the man she wanted to destroy became harder to hate. She saw the wounds hidden behind his controlled expression. She learned about the betrayals that shaped him and the losses that forced him to build emotional walls around himself. But accepting the truth came with a painful price. Scarlett still remembered why she returned. She still remembered the pain. She still remembered everything her family lost. Her heart began questioning what her mind had believed for years. Then a forgotten name appeared in both of their investigations. A witness. Someone who disappeared after the tragedy and vanished before anyone could discover the truth. That person was the only one who knew what really happened that night. When Scarlett finally received a message from the missing witness, she expected answers. Instead, she received a revelation that changed everything. Adrian Voss was never the person who destroyed her family. He was another victim trapped inside the same hidden enemy's plan. Scarlett Monroe returned to the city with a single purpose: destroy Adrian Voss. But the closer she came to the truth, the more impossible that mission became. The man she planned to punish had become the person standing between her and the enemy who destroyed both their lives. What started as revenge slowly transformed into something Scarlett never expected: protection. As Scarlett continued searching for the person responsible for the tragedy, Adrian's enemies began noticing a dangerous change. The feared Mafia king had always been untouchable, but now there was someone who mattered to him. Scarlett became his weakness. Rival organizations believed removing her would break Adrian's control. They launched attacks, sent warnings, and tested the limits of his power. But every time danger approached, Adrian made the same choice. Her safety came before his empire. For a man who had spent his entire life protecting power, choosing one person over everything he built revealed a side of Adrian nobody had ever seen. And Scarlett hated how much it affected her. She had spent 10 years imagining Adrian as the monster responsible for her suffering. She had prepared herself to destroy him without regret. Now she found herself protecting him. The woman who entered his world carrying revenge was becoming the only person fighting to save him. As trust replaced suspicion, Adrian slowly revealed parts of himself he had hidden from everyone. He spoke about betrayals that changed him, losses that shaped his decisions, and the loneliness that existed behind his powerful image. Scarlett realized the strongest man in the city was also the man who had spent years carrying invisible wounds. Then another discovery changed everything. New evidence proved someone had carefully planned Adrian's downfall. Someone had manipulated information, created false enemies, and convinced Scarlett that revenge was the only answer. For 10 years, she had prepared to punish a man who may have been innocent. The real enemy was still hidden. A powerful figure who had destroyed 2 families while making them blame each other. But the truth carried a danger Scarlett never expected. Adrian was beginning to uncover her past. Every secret she had hidden, every reason she entered his life, was getting closer to being exposed. Because Adrian Voss could forgive many things. But betrayal from the one person he finally trusted might be impossible to survive. And when Adrian discovered the secret Scarlett had carried since the day she returned, he learned the devastating truth. She never came back to love him. She came back to destroy him. Here is the section written in the requested cinematic storytelling style and kept under 400 words. The truth Adrian had feared most was not that Scarlett had lied to him, but that the only person he trusted had been carrying a secret capable of destroying everything they had built. After uncovering the hidden evidence behind her past, Adrian finally confronted the woman who had stood beside him through his darkest battles. The anger inside the Mafia king was unlike anything his enemies had ever witnessed. He felt betrayed, not because Scarlett had entered his world with a hidden agenda, but because she had allowed him to believe their connection was real while carrying the weight of revenge in silence. Beneath the rage was something far more painful: disappointment from realizing that the one person who understood his loneliness had also been the one person hiding the truth. Scarlett revealed the tragedy that shaped her life. Years earlier, she had believed Adrian was responsible for the destruction of her family, and every step she took toward him was fueled by the desire to make him suffer the same pain she had endured. But as the truth unfolded, she discovered that Adrian had been another victim of the same manipulation. The revelation changed everything. Adrian was not the monster she believed he was. He had been used, framed, and pushed into becoming the weapon of someone else's plan. The 2 enemies had unknowingly been fighting each other while the real architect of their suffering remained hidden. Their emotional damage became the perfect opening for their enemies. As Adrian struggled between forgiveness and betrayal, powerful forces moved closer, hoping their broken trust would finally destroy them. But Scarlett made the choice Adrian never expected. Instead of continuing her revenge, she chose to expose the truth, even if it meant losing the only person she had ever truly cared about. Adrian wanted to forgive her, but the wounds left behind were deeper than any physical injury he had survived. While they struggled to decide whether their bond could be saved, the mastermind behind their suffering stepped out of the shadows, ready to finish what he started. The person responsible for destroying both their lives finally reveals himself and prepares to erase Adrian and Scarlett forever. The betrayal that nearly destroyed Adrian and Scarlett became the very reason they were forced to stand together. For the first time, they stopped looking at each other as enemies and turned their attention toward the person who had manipulated their pain from the beginning. The most dangerous enemy was never the one holding the weapon. It was the one who convinced others to pull the trigger. Hidden behind years of carefully planned chaos was Victor Moretti, a powerful figure who had once been one of the closest advisors inside Adrian's empire. He understood every weakness, every secret route, and every hidden operation. His connection to Adrian's world gave him access no outsider could ever achieve, allowing him to quietly reshape events while making others believe they were fighting their own battles. Victor's motive was not simple revenge. He wanted complete control over the empire Adrian inherited and believed he was the only person capable of ruling it. By destroying Adrian's family, manipulating Scarlett's hatred, and creating conflict between powerful allies, Victor planned to remove every obstacle standing between him and ultimate power. With the truth finally exposed, Adrian and Scarlett formed an uneasy alliance. They searched through forgotten records, uncovered hidden financial transactions, and followed trails of corruption that revealed Victor's years of illegal operations. Each discovery proved that their suffering had been carefully designed. Scarlett risked everything to prove her loyalty. She handed Adrian evidence that could have protected her own interests but instead exposed Victor's plan. For the first time, Adrian saw her not as the woman who betrayed him, but as someone who was willing to sacrifice everything to correct the damage she had unknowingly helped create. Although forgiveness did not come easily, Adrian slowly began rebuilding the trust they had lost. Their relationship transformed from revenge and suspicion into something stronger, a partnership built on truth. But Victor was already several steps ahead. As Adrian and Scarlett prepared for the final confrontation, they discovered that the enemy they were chasing had anticipated every move. Before they could expose him, Victor stole the final piece of evidence and disappeared, leaving behind a devastating secret capable of destroying Adrian's entire empire forever. The stolen evidence was no longer just a threat to Adrian's empire. It was the final weapon Victor Moretti planned to use against everything Adrian had built. But this time, the Mafia king was not fighting for control, revenge, or survival. He was fighting for the woman who once entered his life to destroy him and became the person who gave him a reason to change. Adrian and Scarlett launched their final attack against Victor's organization, exposing his hidden operations and dismantling the network of criminals who had protected him for years. Every move was calculated, every decision driven by one purpose: ending the cycle of betrayal that had ruined both their lives. As the confrontation reached its peak, the complete truth behind Scarlett's family tragedy was finally revealed. The evidence proved that Adrian had never been responsible for the destruction of her family. Victor had orchestrated the entire event, using lies and manipulation to turn Scarlett's grief into a weapon against an innocent man. For the first time in years, Scarlett received the justice she had spent her life searching for. The pain that controlled her choices began to lose its power, replaced by the understanding that revenge had only kept her trapped in the past. Adrian also realized how much he had changed. The man who once ruled through fear had learned the value of trust, loyalty, and sacrifice. Scarlett did not save him by defeating his enemies. She saved him by showing him that power meant nothing without someone worth protecting. Together, they faced Victor in his final moments of control. The mastermind who had manipulated their lives for years was finally defeated, and his empire collapsed under the weight of the truth he tried to hide. But victory came with one final warning. Among Victor's hidden files was a secret Adrian never expected to find, a secret connected to the night Scarlett disappeared 10 years earlier. After winning the war, Adrian discovered one last truth about the night Scarlett vanished, a revelation that threatened to change everything they believed about their past. The final secret from the night Scarlett disappeared revealed the truth neither of them was prepared to face. Victor Moretti had not only destroyed their lives through manipulation. He had hidden evidence that protected Adrian from a crime he never committed. The truth finally freed Scarlett from the anger that had controlled her for years and allowed Adrian to understand that their story was never about revenge. It was about two broken people finding redemption through each other. For the first time, Scarlett found peace. The woman who once lived only for revenge no longer carried the weight of hatred. She realized that justice was not about making someone suffer. It was about refusing to let the past control the future. Adrian also changed in ways no one inside his empire expected. The Mafia king who once measured strength through fear began removing himself from the darkest parts of his organization. He dismantled operations built on corruption and created a new path focused on loyalty, protection, and rebuilding what had been destroyed. Scarlett became the reason behind that transformation. She did not change Adrian by forcing him to become someone else. She reminded him of the man he had buried beneath years of violence and power. Through her honesty, courage, and forgiveness, she showed him that a person's past did not have to decide their future. Together, Adrian and Scarlett stepped into a new beginning. Their relationship was no longer built on secrets, revenge, or pain. It was built on trust, sacrifice, and the understanding that they had survived the darkest chapters of their lives together. But even after finding peace, they knew their world would never be completely safe. The enemies they defeated had left behind unanswered questions, hidden connections, and dangers waiting beyond the shadows. As they prepared to leave their old lives behind, a mysterious message arrived with a warning that shattered their sense of victory. The enemy they destroyed was only a small part of something much larger. And as Scarlett and Adrian looked at the message revealing a deeper conspiracy, they realized their greatest battle had never truly ended,